Well, hello, fourth grade math teachers. I'm so excited that you've jumped on our first weekly preview video looking at the content for the week of September 19th through the 23rd. How exciting that you guys get to stand up in front of your students and deliver this incredible instruction over such an amazing subject like math. I'm very jealous of you, but I know you're going to do a great job, and I'm hoping that this video gives you some tools and some weapons to walk into your PLC with and feel dangerous, like you really know the content really well. And so that's what our hope is with these videos. Again, we're so glad that you're with us. I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Ryan Castle. I'm the K-12 math coordinator here in Mesquite ISD. And again, just so excited that you would jump on with us and hope you find this video super helpful. So as we dive into the week, you see that there is kind of a lot here in fourth grade for the week of September the 19th, but a lot of these TEKs that we're only covering a certain portion of the TEK for this particular week. And we're going to start off the week by teaching our students how to multiply by multiples of tens and hundreds. That is TEK 4B. It has been tested 2 times in the last 5 years, but it's really going to support what we do in 4G, 4D, and even in 4H. So this is a very, very important standard. We want our students to be very good at multiplying a number by a multiple of 10 or 100. Then on Tuesday, we will move into TEK 4G, where we use rounding or compatible numbers to estimate products. And so the idea will be to round numbers on Tuesday and use the skill that was learned on Monday in order to estimate solutions to real-world problems. Then Wednesday through Friday, we will look at 2 TEKs, 4H and 4D. We're only going to be looking at the multiplication aspect of these TEKs. So you don't have to worry about the division part just yet. And in the 4D TEK, we're only going to focus on multiplying a 4-digit number by a 1-digit number, and we'll save 2-digit by 2-digit for later on. The strategy that we're going to mostly focus on when we talk about 4D is the strategy of partial products. So that's going to be the one that we really focus on in this video. We're not going to get to the standard algorithm just yet, but we're going to relate the standard algorithm later on back to our partial products that we learned this week. And so if you'll notice, on Wednesday and Thursday, we're going to focus on multiplying 3-digit by 1-digit numbers. And then on Friday is when we'll get all the way up to the complexity of that TEK by doing multiplication of 4-digit by 1-digit numbers. Jumping right into TEK 4B, one thing that we think would be very helpful is for you to have an anchor chart in your classroom for students to be able to look at and remember how to multiply by multiples of 10 and 100. And you could start the anchor chart just with this and ask students, what do they notice? This would be a great opportunity to use the talk moves to get the students talking about what they're noticing and seeing, and hopefully be able to discover the pattern of how we multiply by multiples of 10 and 100. From there, you can have students practice a couple of more problems and then have this up somewhere in your room for you to reference anytime you have to make use of this particular skill. In this star-released item, Ms. Gonzalez packs 45 boxes with limes, and each box holds 100 limes. We want to know how many limes can Ms. Gonzalez pack into these boxes. You'll notice that there's a problem-solving aspect to this particular question, so you're going to have to help your students understand that they are multiplying in this particular case, because Ms. Gonzalez has 45 boxes of limes, and each of those 45 boxes has 100 limes in it. And obviously we don't have time to write out 100 or 45 boxes that all have 100 on there, but at least have them visualize what's going on in the problem so that they know to multiply. From there, we know we're going to multiply 45 times 100, and so that's going to be 45 times 1, which is 45, and then our 2 zeros that come from our 100, and so therefore our answer would be letter J. There's a couple of misconceptions in this star-released question that you'll want to be aware of to make sure that your students don't fall into these traps. Notice that we have a number sentence. A rhombus is multiplied by 10 in order to equal a circle, and we want the table that shows numbers that make this number sentence true. In letter A, we have 44, 66, 99, and 150 for our rhombus numbers, and our circle numbers, you'll notice, are 10 greater than our rhombus numbers. Well, in order to do that, what had to have happened is you had to add 10 to each of these numbers, not multiply by 10 as the number sentence tells you to do. Therefore, A is the incorrect answer. For letter C, what we notice is that each of our rhombus numbers have had 2 zeros added to the end of the number. That means that we're not multiplying by 10 as we're supposed to be, but we're actually multiplying by 100. And so therefore C is also incorrect. We know that when we multiply by 10, we only add 1 zero to the end of the number. Finally, notice answer choice D. For answer choice D, this student added the 0 in between the two numbers, which is obviously not correct. And so we know that D is also wrong. And finally, that leads us to B, where we notice that each of our rhombus numbers is multiplied by 10 in order to get our circle numbers. Moving on to the next TEK that you'll cover on Tuesday, 4.4G, what you'll notice about the released items is that 2 of them involve division, which we haven't covered yet in 4th grade, so we're going to hold off on those released items for now. And then the other one involves addition. And since we're talking about multiplication, we don't need to worry about this star released item because you already covered that back on August the 29th. So we aren't going to have any released items to really use to plan our lesson for Tuesday, but we are going to look at the TEK that tells us to round to the nearest 10, 100, or 1,000, or use compatible numbers to estimate solutions that involve whole numbers. And again, there's going to be a problem-solving aspect to this because the student is going to have to be able to identify which operation they're going to use in order to solve the problem. For Tuesday's lesson, when you talk about TEK 4G, you may need to have a number talk or spiral review that reminds students how to round to the nearest 10 or 100. You probably did this a couple of weeks ago when you did this with addition, but just in case, you still have some students struggling with this skill. Let's look at some of the questions that students will be working through on this day. For number 16, we want to estimate to determine whether 5 times 68 is greater than or less than 350. And so in order to use rounding to help us do this easier, we would have students look at 68 and round that to the nearest 10. That would give them 70, and so now we would be doing 5 times 70. Using our skills from Monday to multiply by this multiple of 10, we know that 5 times 7 is going to give us 35. But that's not really 35, as you know, because we didn't multiply by 7, we multiplied by 7 tens. So really, it's going to be 35 times 10, which is equal to 350. Well, because we rounded 68 up to 70, it would make sense that 5 times 68 is less than 350. Since 5 times 70 was 350, 5 times 68 would be less than 350. For number 20, we have 4th graders choosing a readathon as a class fundraiser. Each of those 4 4th grade classes reads 408 pages. And we want to know about how many pages did the 4th graders read. Again, notice that there is a problem-solving aspect to this problem, and so students will have to recognize that they will multiply in order to answer this question. Therefore, what we want them to do is round this number 408 to make it a more compatible or nice number. And so if we rounded that to the nearest 100, that would give us 400, and then multiply that by each of the 4 4th grade classes. Again, using our skills from Monday where we multiply by a multiple of 100, the 4 times the 4 is going to give me a 16, and then I will add my 2 zeros at the end to give me 1600. Look at number 17 now. This is a very challenging word problem because of the context. It says that the distance between Bill's house and his aunt's house is 485 miles. About how many miles would he drive if he made 4 round trips from his house to his aunt's house and back? So not only are we going to have to figure out how much it takes to get to his house, to his aunt's house, but also from his aunt's house back to his house. And so therefore, if we have 4 round trips, that really means that we're going to have 8 total trips from Bill's house to his aunt's house or vice versa. So we're going to take 8 and then multiply it by our compatible number. And if we look at 485, what would our compatible number be? Yes, that's right. It would be 500. We would multiply or round that number to the nearest hundred in order to get 500. Then again, using our skills from Monday, 8 times 5 is going to be 40, and then our 2 additional zeros will get added on there so that we get an answer of 4,000 miles. These are the released items for 4-H that involve multiplication. Now, I don't want you to spend a ton of time here because we're not quite ready to get to the level of this TEK. We're just building the foundation through increasing students' problem-solving ability and their multiplication skills. And it's actually the next TEK that we'll talk about that will really help that cause. But for now, we're going to leave these 4-H items alone because you're going to spend a lot more time on this TEK in the coming weeks involving multiplication and then moving into division. So we really want to focus our time and our energy on the next TEK. For TEK 4D, this is the TEK that we're really going to focus on, and it's going to be a step up from what students have done in 3rd grade, because in 3rd grade, they multiplied a 2-digit number by a 1-digit number, and in 4th grade, we're going to get them up to a 4-digit by a 1-digit number. Again, we're not going to focus on multiplying a 2-digit by a 2-digit this week. That will be saved for future lessons. For this first problem, this is a review from 3rd grade. There are 4 4th grade classes at Henry Elementary. There are 26 students in each class, and we want to know how many 4th graders are there. And the strategy that we're going to focus on for these couple of days is going to be the strategy of partial products. And so for partial products, what we do is we decompose the bigger number into 2 different parts. And so for 26, we're going to have 20 and we're going to have 6. And so we separate it by place value. I'm then going to come over here and get a 4 because there are 4 4th grade classes at Henry Elementary. And again, we want to talk to students about the problem-solving method of determining which operation we're going to use for this particular problem. Then we just start multiplying, again, using those skills that we learned on Monday of multiplying by a multiple of 10. So when I do 4 times 20, I know that that's going to give me 4 times 2, which is 8, with a 0 added at the end. And then 4 times 6 is going to give me 24, which I recall from my facts. Then adding those 2 numbers together is going to give us the result of 104. Then we have a 3-digit by 1-digit number, and this is what we're going to focus on for Wednesday and Thursday of this week. And then by Friday, we'll get up to a 4-digit by 1-digit. For the number 453, if I decompose that number, I'm going to have 4 hundreds, 5 tens, and 3 ones, and be multiplying that by 4. Because a muffin has 450 calories, we want to know how many calories there are total in 4 muffins. If I multiply 4 times 400, 4 times 4 is 16, and add my 2 zeros, 4 times 50 is going to be 4 times 5, which is 20, and then add my 0 that came from the 50 right here. So that's where this 0 came from. This 0 came from the fact that 5 times 4 was 20. Then 4 times 3 is going to give us 12. In order to get the answer, we're just going to add up those three numbers in order to get the final answer of 1,812. So, using this model to build this out using partial products is how we want to start this, and then later on down the road in future lessons, we will connect this process to the standard algorithm. By the time you get to Friday, this is where you want students to be able to answer a question to the level of the STAR test. So in this particular example, an orchestra had 8 performances. There were 2,464 tickets sold for each performance. Be careful, we harp on this a lot, but be careful not to talk about key words and looking for a word to understand what operation to use. We really want to immerse ourselves into the story of the problem to try and understand which operation to use. And so in this particular case, it might be helpful to draw a picture where you have 8 performances, and for each of those 8 performances, you have students just write in, this is 2,464, this is 2,464, on and on and on until they see, oh yeah, okay, we're going to be multiplying on this particular question. So once we know that we are multiplying, we're going to use the strategy of partial products in order to do this for now. And so decomposing this number into its different parts by place value, we're going to have 2,460 and 4, and we're going to multiply each of those numbers by our number 8. So here's our 8. If we multiply 8 times 2,000, that's going to give us 16,000. Then 8 times 400 is going to be 3,200. Then 8 times 60 will be 48 with a 0 on the end. And 8 times 4 will be 32. Now, if you just have students do some estimation here, you might not even have to have them do the addition on this multiple choice problem. Because if you look here, I've got 16,000 plus a 3,000, which I know is going to give me 19,000. There's only one answer that is that big, and that is letter D. So doing some estimating might help you out on these particular problems. You could even bring in the skill from Monday and have them round this number to the nearest 1,000 or to the nearest 100 and see if multiplying by 8 helps them eliminate any wrong answers. Hopefully they would see that B and C are incorrect. And so we can mix and match these skills to help students understand how to best answer these STAR level questions. We really hope this video was helpful for you in diving deeper into the TEKS. And now as you head into PLCs and plan for these lessons, we hope that you have a good understanding of how these questions may be asked on the STAR so that you can then backwards design your lesson and make sure that students have the skills and the knowledge that they need in order to show mastery on these TEKS. If you have any questions about any of the content that was covered in this video or any questions at all about 4th grade math, we will have office hours on Tuesday, September 13th from 3:30 to 4. You can find the link to those office hours in the same spreadsheet that you found the link to this video, and we hope that you'll jump on with us and ask any questions that you might have. It is a come and go environment, so just come, ask your question, get your answer, and you can go about the rest of your day, and we hope that that resource proves helpful for you. One last thing before we go, we'd love for you to fill out a survey that would let us know that you watched the video, and then your feedback will help us serve you better in future videos. So you can use the QR code or the link provided here to fill out that survey. That way we'll have some record that you came on and watched the video and also be able to better serve you in future videos. Thank you so much for all of the amazing work that you're doing on your campus for your students in 4th grade math. We are so excited to see and hear how these videos help you plan your lessons.